Yeah, I'm still hearing something over here.
We made a trailer a few months ago. Same of us is just.
We're back on the road because
for Chris and Charlene, their motorhome had always been a sanctuary, a place where adventure, stunning landscapes, and peaceful nights came together. From scenic overlooks to quiet forest campsites, their travels had been filled with joy and a deep bond with nature. But during one overnight stop in France, that sense of safety was shattered by an encounter that left them permanently more cautious on the road. The day began as so many others. They spent hours exploring the countryside before finding what seemed like the perfect spot to park, a hilltop surrounded by trees complete with benches and a fire pit. As the sun went down, they lit a fire, shared dinner, and mapped out the next leg of their trip. Despite the chill in the air and a rising wind, the setting felt calm, inviting, and safe. There was just one problem. The sloping ground made it nearly impossible to sleep comfortably. After weighing their options, they decided to move to a flatter spot further down the hill. By the time they resettled, fatigue had taken over. They locked the doors, curled up for the night, and expected nothing more than quiet rest.
we're back on the road because we couldn't sleep where we were. There were a lot of people outside our van and we didn't feel safe there. So we sleep and we heard a lot of noise coming from outside. We think that there were people having a laugh, and a chat, but it turned out to be a nightmare for us. We're very tired right now.
But at around 3 a.m., that calm was broken. They woke to noise outside the motorhome. At first, it sounded like faint voices and music, maybe just a late-night gathering nearby, but the sounds grew closer. Soon, footsteps and movement circled the vehicle. And then came the first blow. Loud bangs reverberated through the night as several people began pounding on the motorhome from different sides. Their dog, Holly, erupted into frantic barking. Sensing the danger, Chris and Charlene quickly realized they were surrounded. Heavy thuds shook the front of the van, followed by aggressive pounding along the sides. For a moment, Chris considered stepping outside to confront the group, but with multiple people outside and no idea of their intentions, the risk was too great. Instead, they made a split-second decision. Escape. Chris started the engine, and they sped away into the darkness, praying they weren't followed. After 15 tense minutes of driving aimlessly, they finally stopped somewhere that felt safe. Their adrenaline was still racing, making it difficult to process what had just happened. By morning, parked in a secure location, they assessed the damage. Physically, the motorhome was unharmed, but emotionally, the impact was lasting. The night had been a stark reminder that even the most peaceful campsite can turn threatening without warning. They had heard stories of vans being harassed or attacked, but never imagined it would happen to them. From that point forward, they changed how they traveled, avoiding isolated overnight stops, staying more alert to their surroundings, and keeping the motorhome locked at all times. Though shaken, they were thankful to have escaped unharmed. Still, it was an incident they would never forget, one that permanently reshaped how they viewed life on the road. The attackers' motives remain a mystery. Perhaps it was a drunken group looking for trouble, an attempted intimidation, or even the start of a robbery. The coordinated pounding from multiple sides suggested something intentional rather than random. If you were surrounded by strangers in the dead of night, would you stay inside and call for help, or make the same split-second decision to flee? And what if the road ahead had been blocked before you could escape? Indy Vanna Jones is a YouTuber and van life enthusiast who has long embraced the freedom, adventure, and simplicity of living in a micro-camper. But on one unforgettable night, his home on wheels became the target of a brazen break-in that left him questioning just how safe life on the road really is. The day had been picture perfect. After exploring England's Lake District with his partner, from a scenic boat ride to a full day of sightseeing, Indy prepared for an early work shift the next morning. He parked in a spot he'd used countless times before, a familiar location he trusted. Normally, he avoided it on weekends, because it had attracted street racers late at night. But on this Wednesday evening, he expected peace and quiet. That assumption didn't last. When several loud cars arrived after midnight, Indy decided to relocate. He moved to an industrial estate surrounded by parked lorries and dim streetlights. With only a few hours left before his alarm, he quickly fell asleep in the back of his van. At exactly 3:01 a.m., the night erupted.
Head was at this side, feet were down that side. I had a sheet over that part so no light could get in and all that. It adds a bit of sound deadening too. And then a brick came through that window straight over onto that seat. After the brick came in, an arm followed it, grabbed my work bag and shot back out the window. Now I don't know what had happened. Male instinct kicked in. I shouted, oi, started flapping around, opened the back door and ran after them. Can you imagine my naked body chasing after somebody down the street? Before I got to them, they jumped in a van and then
A brick crashed through the side window, landing on the seat beside him. Before he could fully react, an arm reached in, snatched his work bag, and vanished into the dark, running purely on instinct. Indy bolted outside, barefoot and unclothed, sprinting across the estate in pursuit. But the thief was already climbing into a waiting van, which sped away before Indy could close the distance. Breathless, Indy returned to his vehicle only to discover things had gone from bad to worse.
now whenever I'm in the van, I get my keys, find the lock button and listen, the van is locked while I'm inside the van. However, there is a little latch down the side of the door to get out. So there's me out running down this industrial estate, trying my hardest to catch them, grab my work bag back. There's nothing really valuable in the work bag at all. A couple of tachograph cards and my water bottle, my headphones, my CPC card, just all the stuff a driver would need in his work bag. My lunch. Upon returning to the van though, the whole van's alarm system's going off. I tried to get in the back, realising instantly that I had no clothes on. Went round to the back, grabbed the door, it was locked. Hold on, what's happening here? The alarm's still going off at this time. Side door was locked. This door was locked. What am I going to do? The alarm's going off, drawing loads of attention to the van, while my naked ass is trying to get in the back doors. I jumped out the van, left the keys inside the van, and I'd gone running off. The van had locked itself because it was already locked before I got out. Luckily, to an extent, luckily, the side window was missing. A brick had just gone through. I had to crawl my naked butt through there into the back to get the keys to unlock the van, to disable the alarm system so that the alarm would stop going off, for me to then get back in the van, get myself sorted, figure out what to do, what's just happened.
In his rush to give chase, he had left his keys inside. The automatic locking system had sealed every door, leaving him locked out as the alarm blared. There was only one way back and through the jagged frame of the shattered window. Climbing carefully, he retrieved his keys, silenced the alarm, and began to take stock of what he'd lost. The stolen bag contained items essential to his work as a driver: tachograph and CPC cards, headphones, sunglasses, even his lunch. While nothing was worth much in cash, replacing the documents would be both expensive and time-consuming. Indy spent the early morning arranging replacements and ordering a temporary repair for the van, knowing insurance would cover some, but not all of the costs. Then came an unexpected stroke of luck. Later that day, a passerby discovered the discarded bag tossed over a fence and contacted Indy's employer using the ID inside. Miraculously, everything was returned intact. Still, the ordeal left Indy with days of driving behind a plexiglass panel where the window had been, and with a lingering unease about how quickly the break-in had unfolded. Despite the shock, he chose to face the incident with humor and gratitude. He focused on the positives: a repaired windscreen, valuable lessons in security, and the support of friends and family. Determined never to be caught off guard again, he also resolved to add new protective measures, including CCTV cameras, to his camper. The incident underscored a hard truth about van life. Stationary vehicles in quiet industrial areas can be easy targets for opportunistic thieves, and the fact that the intruder had a getaway van waiting nearby suggested this was no random act. It was planned. For those who live on the road, The balance between freedom and safety is always delicate. Would you have risked confronting the thief to protect your belongings? Or stayed inside to avoid a potentially dangerous escalation? And more importantly, what if the intruder hadn't stopped at stealing the bag, but chosen to climb inside instead? The footage opens with a lone explorer returning to a remote section of forest. The uploader who runs the YouTube channel, Sooner Sasquatch, recalls an unsettling encounter here just 1 week earlier.
And it was about 300 yards that way. And I was trying out a replacement night vision that I got in. And I don't say it in the video, but something started walking towards me from my left, from off this way towards me, and you could hear the sticks breaking towards the end of the video, and it kind of freaked me out. I didn't say anything in the video, but I just shut the camera off and put everything up and left. It wasn't far from my vehicle.
While testing a new night vision device, he heard the distinct sound of footsteps and branches snapping to his left. Nothing showed on camera, but the noise was enough to end the recording, pack up, and leave. Now he's back at the same location, and the forest feels even heavier. As he moves cautiously through the undergrowth, he narrates his thoughts in real time. The sensation of being watched grows with every step, pressing down like an unseen weight. The woods are eerily silent, broken only by the occasional crack of a branch or faint rustle of leaves. Then, something unusual. Several trees begin to shake despite the absence of wind. The movement seems deliberate, as if something or someone is keeping just out of sight. For a moment, his camera picks up a dark shape flickering between the trees. He approaches, visibly tense.
Right back there where those trees were kind of shaking. I thought it went back this way, but I could hear I could see the trees over here shaking. See, I'm still hearing something over here. And it's really cold. I keep seeing a black shape in there.
The silence of the forest amplifies every sound he makes, each step crunching the leaves, each creak of the trees echoing louder. On the ground, he notices trampled foliage, signs that something large has moved through. Yet, no animals appear. His flashlight sweeps across the woods, illuminating open patches that line up with the suspected movement. Then, the atmosphere shifts again.
There was a growl. I'm gonna do a real slow pan and then I'm getting out of here. I'm freezing. Whatever it was got quiet. Right through there is where I think it went. You can see right in the middle of my screen is it's all open. You can see where stuff's been trampled, and I'm getting some movement back here where I'm pointing the camera right about now. I can hear it back there. I'm by myself and I'm not armed today.
A low guttural growl rolls out from deeper in the forest. It's faint, but unmistakably chilling. Alone and unarmed, he pauses, debating whether to push forward, reaching the area of the last disturbance. He finds only stillness. The air feels heavier, the silence pressing down harder, as though whatever had been moving now waits for him to leave. With the cold setting in and tension at its peak, he makes the decision to retreat. The video closes with his hurried departure, leaving the mystery unresolved. The deliberate shaking of trees, the brief glimpse of a dark figure, and the guttural growl suggests the presence of something large, possibly a predator. Others argue it could have been a person deliberately hiding. And for some, the pattern fits with long-standing claims of Sasquatch activity. The sudden stillness after so much commotion only deepens the mystery. So, if you were alone in the woods and something tracked you from the shadows, would you keep moving forward or leave before the silence broke again? And if it wasn't an animal at all, what could have been waiting just beyond the tree line? In the remote wilderness of Saskatchewan, Canada, an experienced outdoorsman set out on what he thought would be a routine hunting trip. Armed with nothing more than a crossbow and a camera to document the journey, he was determined to track one of North America's most formidable predators, the grizzly bear. The environment was brutal and unforgiving. Dense undergrowth and endless stretches of untouched forest stood between him and his quarry. Every step required absolute caution. Out here, a single mistake could mean the difference between life and death. Hours passed as he moved quietly through the terrain, keeping downwind, alert to every sound. Each snapped branch or shift in the brush hinted at something massive moving nearby. In this part of the country, the line between hunter and hunted is razor thin. As daylight slipped away and shadows stretched across the woods, an unnatural silence fell. It wasn't the stillness of evening. It was the silence of being watched. And then through the trees it appeared. A massive grizzly, easily 800 pounds or more, only yards away. Its sheer size was staggering. The hunter froze as the animal locked eyes with him. Neither moved, neither blinked. For a moment, that felt endless. They stood in a silent standoff. His pulse thundered in his ears. The bear wasn't afraid. It was calm, calculating. Then, in a blur of motion, the hunter raised his crossbow and fired. The bolt struck true. The bear staggered, reeling from the impact. For a suspended moment, time seemed to stop. Then, its strength began to fail. Finally, the giant collapsed. And just like that, the forest exhaled. The wind returned, rustling the branches overhead. Birds called again in the distance. Life resumed. But something in the hunter had changed. This encounter wasn't simply about skill. It was a confrontation with something ancient, primal, and powerful. For all his preparation and years of experience, he realized what few ever do. In the wilderness, control is only an illusion, facing one of nature's deadliest predators. Survival depends not just on expertise, but on instinct, timing, and luck. As he left the site of the kill, the weight of the moment bore down on him. He had survived, but it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like a reckoning. Because in the wild, you may believe you're the one in control, but the wild is always watching, and next time, it may not let you walk away. On August 21st, 2023, Jay, the explorer and paranormal investigator behind the YouTube channel The Journey is the Destination, returned to the eerie Erin Cemetery located in the remains of a long, abandoned ghost town. This second trip was meant to improve upon a previous live stream that, while plagued by technical difficulties, still managed to capture strange and unexplained activity. Determined to get clearer results, Jay set out once more to investigate the site's unsettling reputation. He began by retracing the same paths he had walked during his first visit, reflecting on the activity that had lingered with him ever since. The cemetery itself was overgrown with weathered gravestones scattered among the grass. Buried here were children, veterans, and many in unmarked graves, their names and stories lost to time. The distant sound of cows carried across the fields, adding to the already uneasy atmosphere. It didn't take long for his equipment to stir. Through the Spirit Talker app, words like soldier and sliced surfaced.
Is that one of the children buried here? There's no names on these 5 graves here, but they are children. And then that's a child, that's a child, that's a child. No name on that one. Can't really read that.
Terms J immediately linked to the military graves nearby. These messages, paired with the presence of unmarked burials, seemed to suggest spirits attempting to communicate. The moment also reignited a memory from his earlier visit, when he believed he had witnessed something shapeshift in the distance. A form that seemed to change right before his eyes. That experience came rushing back as the same references began to surface again. Shapeshifter and phrases that hinted at transformation.
They take other forms.
They take other forms? The shapeshifters? Oh my god, I'm freaking out right now. Especially knowing that I've had some experiences out here and I've seen some stuff I can't explain out here.
The sensation wasn't only digital. Sudden chills and goosebumps swept over him. Signs he interpreted as a nearby presence. As the investigation deepened, more disturbing terms emerged. Dance she killed and hunter. Jay associated these with the graves of children and other tragic lives cut short. Passing a small row of unmarked stones believed to belong to children, he felt an undeniable shift, the sensation of being watched. The impression was soon supported by soft, inexplicable noises nearby, faint rustling in the grass, and the sound of quiet movement. At one point, he snapped a photo in a narrow part of the cemetery and noticed what looked like blood spatter in the image. The source was never identified, but the sight rattled him. As the session went on, his devices repeatedly referenced shape-shifting entities, echoing the same theme from his past visit. Jay's reaction was a mix of anxiety and awe, convinced that the place itself was deliberately reminding him of what he'd seen before. Strangely, although he continued to hear the sound of cows in the distance, none ever appeared. It led him to wonder whether something was mimicking animal noises to confuse or distract him, an unsettling thought that aligned perfectly with the shapeshifter theme. At one moment, he even saw a patch of grass bend under invisible weight, as though something had just walked through. The sight left him visibly shaken. Names also surfaced. Charles George. He attempted to use them as points of communication. Eventually, a possible connection was made to a boy named James H. Jones, buried nearby. When Jay asked if the children resting there had died from illness or some other tragedy, the responses remained cryptic, but carried an undeniable heaviness. Other phrases followed: "We hear you, see me." The words seemed to push for direct engagement, as though something wanted more than observation. It wanted interaction. By the end of the night, Jay remarked that the session was quieter than his first trip, but the cumulative effect was just as powerful. The patterns were consistent. Shape-shifting references, disturbing phrases, unexplained noises, and physical sensations that made the environment feel alive with presence. While devices like Spirit Talker and Ghost Tube offer no guarantees, the repeated themes across multiple visits are difficult to dismiss. Was Aaron's cemetery truly haunted by spirits of the forgotten? Or was something less human using misdirection to conceal its presence? Jay never captured solid proof of the shapeshifter he believes he saw, but the repeated references, eerie encounters, and physical sensations all suggest that something lingers in Aaron's cemetery. And if something truly has the ability to change form, to mimic what you expect to see or hear, how would you ever know it was there in the first place? In 2015, a young YouTuber named James uploaded what would become the most mysterious and unsettling video on his channel. What started as a simple behind-the-scenes recording for a short horror project soon veered into something neither he nor his friend could have imagined. James and his group returned to a wooded area they had used before, planning to rebuild a proxy symbol for their Slender Man fan film. The original symbol had been made weeks earlier, but almost as soon as they stepped back into the clearing, the atmosphere felt different. The group described a sudden, heavy tension in the air.
This is a strange video today. Basically, a few months back, few months, we made this. Most of you will know what this is like. What was it again, bro? Proxy symbol. Like a proxy symbol, obviously, like to do Slender Man and all that shit. And we did it for the movie trailer, and for Slender Man versus Jeff the Killer. It'll be on the screen if you want to see it. That was a few months ago. Yeah, they can see it. We made a trailer a few months ago, Slender versus Jeff the Killer, and we made this. We haven't finished it yet, but we made this. And after we made it, we went somewhere else in these woods, and it just went. It's crazy. Jonathan, what happened?
Okay, so at first it wasn't that bad, but like it started feeling like it was hard to breathe, like everywhere in this forest. And I know people could just say like, oh yeah, because that's a forest, but it wasn't like that. And then all of a sudden, when we had finished this, that's when it started feeling like that. So anyway, we carried on walking around and kept hearing like branches snapping behind us, and we turned around and they was snapped, but there's no one there and stuff. So and after that, James got a message on his phone from himself, and he didn't send it to himself because I had his phone. And I didn't do it either. So anyway, I gave it to James and said, you got a message. He looked it up, it said it was from himself, and it said, I'm with you.
It said my number on it, so you'd think it was me sending it, but it weren't. And no one has my number saying it could have been me. So that's a weird thing that happened, like, I don't even know how to explain that day. I never talked about it until this video, and what we're doing is seeing if anything else happens this video, because we're making it again. Obviously we're putting the sticks there to finish it off.
Well, trying.
This is getting intense.
Nothing like their first visit. Shortly after placing the sticks in position, they began to hear branches snapping just behind them. Each time they turned, there was no one there. Then came the first inexplicable event. One of them received a text message, but it came from his own phone number. The message read, "I'm with you." At the time, the phone wasn't even in his possession. Whether it was some strange technical error or something far more disturbing, no one could explain it. The group was shaken enough to pause their filming. As they tried to carry on, the woods seemed to grow restless.
Okay, so we haven't actually finished this yet. This is literally just after we've done the first part of the vlog. As we turned the camera off, branches all around us just went all at the same time.
And do you hear the bushes moving as well? It sounded like someone was moving.
It sounded like there was people coming towards us, and the bushes were moving and shit, but there was no animals.
Faint movement flickered in the brush. Something large pushed through the undergrowth. At one point, the camera glitched, producing a strange blur and distortion that mirrored their growing unease. They managed to finish constructing the symbol, but soon after, another text appeared from the same number. This one read, "Time to go." Already unnerved, they decided to leave. Before they could, one member spotted what appeared to be a human-like figure in the distance. The failing light and their own fatigue made it difficult to be sure, and they chose not to investigate further. The authenticity of the video is partly what makes it so disturbing. It was uploaded nearly a decade ago, long before TikTok horror edits and heavily staged paranormal vlogs took over. It wasn't promoted as evidence of the supernatural. It was quietly posted, leaving viewers to draw their own conclusions. The repeated self-exed incidents are particularly difficult to explain. Common glitches don't easily account for messages coming from the same device while it was in someone else's hands. When combined with the snapping branches, the camera distortion, and the fleeting figure, the events suggest a pattern that isn't simple to dismiss. So, was it all just coincidence, amplified by their own nerves and storytelling?